All right, team, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Niket Shah. What I do for a living is I'm a collaboration architect at Cisco. So I actually help our customers and partners set up collaboration, use cases, scenarios, deployments, help them troubleshoot with regards to how they can leverage some of the technology components that we have there. Most recently, the conversation has now pivoted to rather than when will the offices open and when will it be safe for me to go to work? How are some of the social distancing guidelines that would be mandated in my workplace and what can you guys do to help us? And some of the mitigation plans if someone were to develop symptoms for COVID-19 in my office and okay, I don't want to return back to work. I want to be at home. What are some of the collaboration technologies that you can give us? So this has been my talk track with a lot of my partners and customers. They're looking at innovative ways to redesign. Enterprises are looking at innovative ways to redesign their workspaces to make that employee experience so much better. And feel free to stop me at any time. This is a dialogue. I just threw in a few slides that I work with a partner. So what are some of the challenges that we are seeing, right? So when I talk to executives and leaders and workplaces folks, primarily at enterprises who are looking at a strategy for people returning to work, it is around how do I have wellness checks when people come in to say that you don't have COVID-19, you've not had temperature, you've not had anything in the past 2 or 3 days. I want to avoid people touching different devices and interfaces altogether for the risk of infection. How do I enforce social distancing with some of the technology that I have and leverage so let's say if somebody were to develop a symptom around COVID-19, how do I ensure whom did he interact with to get contact tracing and then present that to the person that, hey, you know what, stop coming to the office because I think the person that you were in touch 3 days ago might have developed symptoms for COVID. And what are some of the smart meeting rooms and technologies that we are doing with our products in the workplaces, all right? Um, So this was the norm pre-COVID. If I were to go in an office workplace, I would go in, find spaces available, schedule the meeting similar to what we are doing, like scheduling on the Barcamp website, uh, BarcampGR. We are throwing in our topics and saying that, okay, this is done. Once I am in a big building or facility, for example, our campus in San Jose is around 24 to 27 buildings. And if somebody has scheduled a meeting, how do I locate? How do I do mapping? How do I get from point A to point B? And then and finally, it all boils down to collaboration, right? How do I make that experience so much more easier for people to present, share content and everything? And the last line is for somebody who's investing in that workplace, that is this room being utilized? Am I maximizing on my investment? What is the ROI that I'm getting on this workplace? Is this building floor being utilized at all or not? So this was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, the scenarios have changed. The metrics have remained almost the same. However, we've added a few things from a perspective of the meetings are now moving from regular availability to smarter meeting rooms, contactless meeting rooms. When somebody arrives at our facility, for example, there was previously a lobby ambassador who would give me my Wi-Fi password, my login credentials and everything. And then I would go to the location. Now it's completely contactless. It has to be. You cannot interact within 3 feet of a lobby ambassador. So what do we put in place to help people? Last week or 2 weeks before, I was talking to a friend of mine who's working with a huge hotel chain. And they are looking at ways of how they can take off the receptionist completely. That somebody would come on a touch sensitive mat, it would fire a contact center agent, a video call to a person at the other side, They are talking, he shows them his credentials, he swipes his credit card, and his room keys are allocated to him. So these are some of the innovative ways that businesses are looking to make the whole experience as contactless as possible. And finally, the insight piece now needs to be augmented with regards to experiences with around contact tracing, employee wellness. But there are customers who are looking at integrating their HVAC systems with regards to the devices that we have. So if a temperature or the air density falls below a certain level, they can fire up the airbag, because we know there is a direct correlation between germs in the air and the air density. So at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, when you're getting all like the carbon monoxide and the carbon dioxide level starts increasing to a certain level, we can pump in fresh air, fresh oxygen to rejuvenate you. These are some of the metrics that enterprises are looking at from a perspective of how we can enhance the employee wellness at a workplace. Any questions? Or Josh, can you monitor the space if there are any questions coming up in the space? Because I'm not able to see it.
No problem. Nothing so far.
Okay, so what does Cisco do from a perspective of employee, how we enable this experience? And what I'm going to do is I am going to actually give you a demo around the entire product and how we can walk through the life cycle of all of this. I'm sorry, there's a bit of background noise in the background. So what do we do from a perspective of self-declaration and wellness check? So if you see the device that I'm talking to you on, this is one of the video endpoints that we have. What it can do, it can sense a person is in front of it, automatically fires a web URI and says, can you scan this QR code with your phone so that you don't have to touch the device? Once you scan the QR code, it is going to pop up a web page for you to perform a wellness check saying that, hey, I have not had COVID symptoms, my temperatures have been XYZ. Um, I attest to the fact, I'm giving you this, and give your email address and say, okay, I certify, you hit enter. The minute you hit enter, what it's going to do, it's going to take all that info and give you your wireless login credentials on your email. So it comes to you, you say, okay, these are my Wi-Fi credentials, let me connect to the network. So the minute you connect to the network, we can start uh, checking you or tracing you from a perspective of um, identity services engine products that we have in our portfolio that track the moving of a person from an AP to AP. That is an access point. Now, all of this is done with complete regard to employee privacy and security. We take employee privacy and security very, very seriously, because whether we like it or not, post COVID-19, some of these things are going to be a norm with regards to some of the info that you're going to share. And we need to ensure that when enterprises are collecting this info from folks, that employee privacy and data is kept in mind. In addition, we have Wi-Fi and cameras that we can place at certain specific location and then have digital signage on the walls. So for example, in a coffee breakout room, there is a mandate that there cannot be more than 2 or 3 people in that coffee breakout room. So one person at the coffee machine, one person at the refrigerator, and one person somewhere else. If the fourth person enters, the camera is going to track that, and on the digital signage on your wall, it's going to fire an alert saying that social distancing norm violated. There are more than 4 people in this space. This is all possible and available right now. Excuse me, just give me 1 minute. I'll be back. There is a bit of background noise. Give me 1 minute.
This is our wizard. Niket is our wizard here on our team for collaboration. So that's why he's in the spaceship there.
Yeah. All right. So I have covered the aspect of self-declaration wellness. I've covered contactless check-in. I've covered social distancing. But what do I need to do if somebody gets infected? So this is where some of the identity services, the two-factor authentication that we have in our portfolio that can help us. So for example, if Josh, I, and Nicole were in a huddle space and we were talking, now 2 days later, it is identified that Nicole or I, for example, Niket contracted with COVID-19. I let my company know that I have contracted COVID-19 with the identity services as to who with your email addresses, who was near an AP, the triangulation, the Bluetooth low power energy, the LoRaWAN solutions that we have. We can tell you that Niket was in touch with Nicole and Josh at 12 p.m. in this huddle space. It is our duty to inform Josh and Nicole that Niket, that you were talking 2 days back, has contracted COVID-19. Please get yourself tested if you have any symptoms around that. So we can do that right now from a contact tracing perspective inside an enterprise. So moving on to the smart meeting rooms, and this is where I will show you a demo as to what we do in our smart meeting rooms with regards to so if you were in a meeting room previously, what was the norm? You would have to go to Outlook, schedule a meeting, allocate the resources, talk to an IT and say, hey, I need this meeting room for about 45 minutes for a conference call. Now you can actually go up to a meeting room. We have the WebEx AI assistant that you can go and talk to a meeting room and say, okay, WebEx, book this meeting room for 45 minutes. And it's just going to pop up and say, okay, I've booked this meeting room for 45 minutes, updates all the placeholders that we have at backend that this meeting room is booked. This is without you touching anything. You can say, okay, WebEx, record my meeting, WebEx, do this, do that. This is the AI that comes integrated in our meeting rooms and meeting portfolio as well. And finally, let's say if I'm done with the meeting, if that huddle space had like 3 or 4 meetings, you want to ensure that it gets priority from a sanitization perspective, so that if somebody comes in to clean a room, this room gets the priority because there were a lot of folks in that room. We can get those analytics, send it out to the cleaning team and say, okay, this room had very high occupancy, this room had very high occupancy. Can we ensure that these rooms are sanitized first before you do the general cleaning? And what I'm going to do is I am going to pivot into a demo. But before I do that, any questions? No? Okay. So this is a mock-up that I created to showcase a customer. This is with our partner AppSpace. So this is what it looks like in a meeting room, and I'm going to cover the various scenarios that I just articulated and talk to you about. So I am going to click on the lobby. This is how a lobby would look like, okay? That, hey, you are here, this is the workplace, this is what the map looks like. There are so many people in the meeting, the building status is safe, the maximum safe occupancy is this. These are number of employees in a meeting, in the building, and these are number of visitors in the building. But that's all good. Now it says you have to be pre-registered before you go and have access. So how do I do the reception bit? So let me click on the reception. So this is a device that we have at the reception. So you walk up to the device, it is going to fire up a QR code, and it's going to say, okay, scan to do touchless check-in. So it is going to fire that QR code in front of you, and it's going to say, okay, take your phone, scan this. Once you scan it and you fill in your employee wellness and check-in, there is a small printer that is next to the device that's going to print out a page which is going to have your Wi-Fi credentials for you to connect to the network and for us to track you with complete security and privacy. So once you are in the building, you have your wayfinding app set up, you need to go and enter a meeting room. So how do you go about entering a meeting room? So I'm going to hit on scheduling. So outside the meeting room, there are these devices that are placed that tell you that this room is available, this room is not available. all of that. So you can just, rather than you knocking on the door and saying, hey, is somebody available? You can just do this. So you can just scan this, check yourself in, and the meeting room is scheduled for you to have a meeting. Now, what happens inside the meeting room? So let's say you are in a meeting room. This space is normally mandated for 6 to 10 people, but with social distancing guidelines in place, you can have 2 or 3 people in the room. So there are cameras, as we call them, the intelligent cameras that are there in our system that are going to track the number of people in a room. So you can say, okay, I am there in the room, I am ready, I am going to check in. Okay, the room has been checked in, and I am ready to have my content and everything shared. If the fourth person enters the room and the social distancing guidelines
You can
are,
use your touch panel to share content both locally in your meeting room and in calls with remote participants.
thank you.
To share content, tap the Share Activity button. You can either use the Cisco WebEx Teams app to share wirelessly or use an HDMI cable to connect your device.
Okay, so this is, once I am in, I have my meeting, I leave. All right, I wanted to share one more.
Tap Share. To stop sharing,
Sorry,
tap Stop Sharing.
I didn't plan for this.
To share,
Oops, I'm just going to share it again. Any questions while I do this? No. Okay, so I am in this meeting room. I want to check on the room capacity. I can say that the room capacity is um, XYZ. There are more than 4 people in the room. The capacity is over or something like that, because the maximum capacity of the room is just 2 folks. If I want to check on the air quality, some of the devices have sensors in them that can monitor the air quality, air density, and everything in our products that can say, okay, the air levels are XYZ. They can tie in with the building facility room, and you can then start pumping in air or anything like that. And finally, I am going to click on a small huddle space where I have products and people placed. So how am I doing on time? I have about 5 more minutes. So this is all the content that I had for today. Any questions or any notes, Nicole or Josh, that you want to share? I'm just going to
The only thing that I would say is for those that aren't quite as familiar with the Cisco technologies, what physical equipment uh, is part of this solution? You know, what are all the hardware that's working together here?
So from a perspective of everything to make all of this work, it's just our video endpoints, our Wi-Fi cameras, our Wi-Fi APs, and our Wi-Fi cameras. So most of the customers have invested in this infrastructure gear at their backend. So all we are doing is tying those threads together to present a cohesive system. Sometimes you might want to integrate your facilities like HVAC, lighting, building management systems, and we can integrate all of them with our portfolio. So you could literally go in a room and say, okay, I'll give you an example. I am from India. No matter what the California weather is, I am always cold. So the first thing that I go is when I enter a meeting room, I say, okay, WebEx, make this room warmer. And it automatically interacts with the thermostat, lowers the temperature. And then I can go up to the space and say, okay, WebEx, put this room in presentation mode. So what it does, it dims the light, lowers the blind, and shares my content on the screen without me having to touch anything on any of the devices. Previously, it would have required me to connect my HDMI, go up to the blinds, lower the blinds down, and lower the lights. You don't know who has touched all of this. You can now do that with just your voice. Does that help?
Awesome. And I will say Niket is not lying. He is always cold. And he's, apart from Han Solo, he's the only other person I know that's always wearing a vest.
Another one that I wanted to show you was if you guys are into augmented reality, we just introduced something. Give me 1 minute. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So what we did, team, was we tied up with a company called RealWear. And what you can do is you can get expert on demand with the RealWear glasses. So what they do is you can wear a prototype on top of your head, and then if you're in front of a mine or a high profile a product, but you need somebody you want to talk remotely, we can do that so it can integrate with your current systems. The expert on demand can then leverage the power of WebEx Teams, share the content, and then take over rather than somebody flying in to handle that equipment, right? So I can go ahead and play. How long is this video? How am I doing on time?
Got 2 minutes and then we have a little bit of buffer time.
Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna play this. It's about a 1 minute.
Introducing Expert on Demand. Combining the power of WebEx and RealWear's HM21 collaboration headset. Frontline workers can now request remote expert assistance at any time. Simply using voice commands, they are connected with the right party to solve their needs. Expert on Demand enables you to do multi-party video calling.
Hey Jeff, thanks for joining. I'm here with Alex and we're just doing a quick troubleshooting and thought you might be able to help us out.
Content sharing.
You're able to see that? Yep, I can see that.
And real-time annotation, so you can highlight important aspects and provide detailed direction.
Go ahead and show me the problem right there. This issue here, this curve is too tight. Just move that to right here.
Expert on Demand makes it possible to reduce operational and travel expenses, increase resolution efficiency, and improve frontline worker experience. Empower your frontline with the tools they need, when they need it.
I thank you for your time today. We can stop the recording. That's all that I had. I'll take any last questions that might be there in the space.